So I was interested in the part where you talk about the one-shot learning, right? So in one-shot learning, you're basically training on some websites, but then you're going to apply your algorithm on an unseen website. And I was just curious, you know, how similar or different was this, or were these new websites that you were checking versus what you were training on? Because I can imagine a scenario where it's very similar interaction, the same type of application versus where maybe you have much less interaction, different kind of application.
We will actually collect the data from the MI-Unique extension and not from a website. And the website was an example for the usage of the one-shot learning pipeline. And we did have some different users in the one-shot scenario. So it had the dataset had different properties, but overall it behaved quite the same as the normal dataset that we used. It was just a later dataset in time, so the network had to deal with time drifts.
Thank you. Any other questions?
So this is Ingrid from Johns Hopkins University. So it's excellent work. I like it very much, especially you did the real world experiment. That's impressive. So I have a question that whether you did some a controlled experiment, for example, increase the GPU workload, for example, watch a video, or for example, play a video game and look at your performance if you can still detect it very accurately. Thank you.
Thanks for the compliment. And we tried to do some controlled experiments with the GPU workloads. We tried to play a video while collecting drone apart traces. And we saw that it affected the results a bit. But when we checked the real world experiment, we saw that drone apart is working on wild data. And it means that even though users have different workloads, while the drone apart is collecting traces, it's still working.
Hi, thank you. This is Song Lee from Johns Hopkins University. My question will be how can you make sure that if you change your, the ID of the points can make sure that you actually store the payload to a specific EU, like you try to store your payload to different EUs and you change the ID of the point. So how can you make sure that if you change the ID of the point, you can store the payload to different EUs? Yeah.
Sorry about the noise. I hope that you can hear me well. When I change the ID, when the ID of the vertex in WebGL is changed, is different. So I can make the code run different on that because I can use the vertex ID in the WebGL code, and I know which payload to run on which vertex because I can send a bit mask for the JavaScript code. And in this way, I know how to run which payload in which vertex. I hope that answers your question. If not, and I misunderstood your question, please send me an email, and I'll try to answer you there.